Amelia Earhart walked alone, a hero observed from afar, yet untouched by applause. The world saw headlines, but she felt the weight of purpose. Turning from the flashes, she stepped into the cockpit, leaving fame behind for focus, for flight. The runway fell away. Land shrank beneath her wings, and the horizon stretched endlessly ahead. Every instrument, every gauge, every adjustment demanded trust. Trust in her skill, in her plane, in herself. Above the clouds, the world widened, vast and unyielding, yet she remained steady. Each mile was a test of courage, patience, and will. And as the electric cut through the endless sky, one truth endured: bravery is earned, not given. Amelia flew not for glory, but to reach beyond it, toward the longest horizon. Welcome to History Worlds Secret. Here, every story is a journey beyond the known, a discovery of courage, ambition, and the secrets that shaped our world. Subscribe now and step into the skies of history where legends live and every horizon holds a new story. Join us and unlock the hidden tales of humanity, one secret at a time. The radio crackled like a living thing, breathing, resisting, fading. Across the vast Pacific Ocean, invisible waves of sound traveled through air and water, fragile and uncertain. They drifted over miles of endless blue, across horizons that seemed infinite, reaching ears that might never hear them. Radios were never meant to carry certainty. They carried hope. They carried risk. And sometimes, they carried the final words of history. This is Amelia Earhart. We are running north and south. We are low on fuel. Her voice cut through the static, calm, controlled, professional. The voice of a pilot, trained not to panic, even when the sky itself refused to cooperate. It was a voice measured, precise, carrying the weight of knowledge and responsibility, of preparation and instinct. Then came silence, not a clean silence, not peace, but the sharp, unforgiving hiss of static, endless and empty. A sound that seemed to swallow hope, that echoed across the water, leaving only uncertainty in its wake. Thousands of miles away, radio operators leaned closer to their receivers. Some adjusted dials, others wrote hurried notes, hands trembling just enough to betray their fear. Their faces were lit by dim lamps and the faint glow of radio tubes, eyes straining to capture a fragment of life from across the ocean. They waited. They waited for coordinates. They waited for a correction. They waited for her voice to return. It did not. No distress call followed. No message. No explanation. Only the empty hiss of a machine and the faint, imperceptible echo of human hope across the waves. No confirmed position, no sighting, no final goodbye, only static. Below them, the Pacific stretched endlessly, indifferent. The sun reflected off the waves, blinding in its brilliance. Clouds mirrored themselves in the water, an unbroken mirror of white and blue. Every second stretched, every mile counted, every moment a reminder of how fragile life could be when suspended between sky and sea. On the morning of July 2nd, 1937, the world did not yet know that it had just lost one of its brightest stars. Or perhaps it had not lost her at all. Perhaps the world had simply failed to follow her far enough. Perhaps it had not reached far enough across the sky, across the water, across the void. In that silence, in that infinite expanse of sky and sea, There was a quiet courage, a refusal to yield, a determination to continue, even when the path ahead was uncertain. And in that determination, Amelia Earhart's legacy had already begun to shine. Amelia Mary Earhart was never afraid of falling. Long before the world knew her name, before cameras, headlines, and the weight of expectation, she was a child in Atchison, Kansas. Quiet streets, lined with wooden houses, sunlight glinting on porches, and a backyard that became her first testing ground. She climbed trees higher than any boy dared, feeling the rough bark under her hands, the wind teasing her hair, the world stretching small beneath her feet. Not because she wanted to prove something, but because she wanted to see. She built makeshift ramps from scrap wood, dragging them into place with scraped hands, fingers raw, palms bleeding, and sent herself flying down them on homemade sleds. Once, she slid off a crude backyard roller coaster and hit the ground hard enough to draw blood. She stood up laughing, blood on her knees, triumph in her eyes, while other girls were taught caution, how to sit properly, how to speak softly, how to remain safe. Amelia learned defiance, not rebellion for its own sake, but resistance to limits that made no sense to her. She measured danger not with fear, but with curiosity. She felt the thrill of the air around her, the rush of speed, the weight of the earth below. And she wanted more. She grew up in a world that insisted adventure was a male inheritance, that danger belonged to men, that ambition should be modest, especially for women. Amelia never accepted those terms. She didn't want permission. She wanted altitude. In 1920, at an air show in California, she experienced something that would change her forever. The aircraft roared above the ground, engines shaking the very air itself. The earth trembled beneath the wheels, the crowd gasped, and the sky opened like a door she could step through. And inside her chest, something shifted. A spark ignited, a quiet certainty that she was meant for this, that she would rise, that she would fly. Later that day, when asked what she thought of flying, she said only one thing: "I'm going to fly." People smiled politely. Some laughed. Most forgot the comment altogether. Amelia did not. She felt the call of the sky in her bones, a longing too urgent to ignore, a promise too vast to forget. Learning to fly was not romantic. It was expensive. It was mechanical. And it was unforgiving. Amelia Earhart did not come from wealth, nor did she have sponsors waiting to open doors. If she wanted to fly, she would have to earn every minute in the air herself. So she worked. She drove trucks. She took photographs. She typed documents late into the night as a stenographer. Every paycheck was measured not in comfort, but in flight hours. Every dollar saved brought her closer to the cockpit. Her instructor, Netta Snook, was one of the few women pilots in America at the time. She did not soften the truth. Flying isn't graceful, she warned. It's mechanical. It demands discipline. Amelia listened carefully. She had always understood discipline. She soloed. She misjudged landings. She crashed. And then she repaired. Bent metal was straightened. Engines were checked again and again. Fear was examined, acknowledged, and put aside. She flew again. Each hour in the air carved away another doubt, another assumption that she did not belong there. The sky did not care who she was. It only demanded precision. When Amelia earned her pilot's license, there was no celebration, no speech, no pause. She simply planned her next flight. Records followed. Altitude records, speed records, distance records. Not because she chased them, but because they happened when she refused to stop. Then, in 1932, She did something no woman had ever done before. She flew solo across the Atlantic Ocean, 15 hours, cold, dark, alone. That flight made her famous, but fame never satisfied her. The sky was still unfinished. Fame arrived quietly, but it never stayed long. After the Atlantic crossing, doors opened that had once been locked. Invitations arrived. Cameras followed. Newspapers reduced her to headlines and adjectives she had never asked for. Brave, fearless, symbol. But symbols do not fly airplanes. Pilots do. And Amelia Earhart never confused recognition with purpose. She returned to the cockpit, not for applause, but for distance. The flights grew longer, the routes more complex. Where land once remained in sight, now there was only water. Where landmarks once guided her, now there were only instruments, stars, and judgment. She studied navigation obsessively, learned how weather deceived, how engines lied, how fatigue whispered mistakes into confident minds. Flying was no longer about proving anything. It was about mastery. She flew across continents, over deserts where heat distorted the horizon, across oceans where clouds erased direction. Each journey demanded calculation, restraint, and trust in preparation over instinct. Risk was no longer thrilling. It was managed. And yet, there was a restlessness that never faded. The maps were still incomplete. Lines ended where imagination did not. The idea formed slowly, dangerously. Not a single crossing, but a circle. A path that would wrap the globe itself. Not a spectacle, but a statement of what was possible. A flight not defined by heroics, but by endurance. She knew the cost. The margins were thin. The room for error, smaller still. But she also knew this. Progress never came from safe distances. It came from those willing to stretch the horizon until it broke. As preparations began, as routes were traced and retraced, Amelia felt something familiar. Not fear, not doubt, but clarity. This was not ambition. This was continuation. The longest horizon was ahead. And she intended to follow it. The journey was relentless. South America, Africa, India, Southeast Asia. Each landing brought new challenges, mechanical repairs in scorching heat, the endless hum of tropical insects, unpredictable storms that seemed to rise from nowhere, and the constant barrage of questions from the press. The world saw a hero. Amelia felt like a worker. She was tired, focused, relentless. Engines required constant attention. Fuel systems were checked repeatedly, gauges scrutinized. The Electra was pushed hard, and it responded with strain, a metal bird stretched to the limits of endurance. Every delay added pressure. Every success increased expectation. She began avoiding interviews. Smiling became effort. Rest became scarce. Nights were spent reading charts by lamplight, adjusting plans, recalculating distances, checking weather reports. Her body ached. Her mind raced. Yet she pressed on. Every mile a test of skill, patience, and will. By the time they reached Lae, New Guinea, the most dangerous leg of the journey lay ahead. Over 2,500 miles of open Pacific Ocean. No landmarks, no alternate runways, no second chances, just water. That night, Amelia wrote quietly in her journal. Words meant for no audience. Courage is the price life exacts for granting peace. She closed the book, feeling the weight of the horizon beyond her window. By morning, courage would no longer be an idea. It would be required. The ocean would demand it. The sky would test it. And the Electra, fragile yet steadfast, would carry her into the unknown. The endless hum of engines seemed to echo her own heartbeat, steady and unyielding. Each mile over the vast Pacific was a silent promise. She would meet the challenge, or the ocean would meet her. July 2nd, 1937. The Electra lifted off under a pale, fragile sky. its engines humming a steady, determined rhythm. The runway disappeared beneath them. The land vanished. Only water remained, a vast, unbroken expanse, stretching in every direction, indifferent to human ambition. For hours, the flight seemed routine. Instruments blinked predictably. Gauges held steady. The horizon stretched endlessly, and the rhythm of the engines was almost hypnotic. Amelia and Fred moved with quiet efficiency, hands steady on the controls, eyes scanning the horizon, minds calculating every variable. Every movement was deliberate. Every glance at the dials, every adjustment of levers, was a negotiation with forces far larger than themselves. Then the clouds thickened. A gray curtain rolled across the Pacific, swallowing sunlight, hiding stars, erasing the horizon. Navigation became uncertain. Radio signals grew weaker, fragmented. Each mile carried them farther into the unknown. Each second a reminder of the ocean's vast indifference. "Howland should be close," Fred said, voice tight but calm, the words measured, precise. Amelia scanned the endless expanse, straining for any sign of land, any shadow, any glimmer of hope. Nothing. The Electra shuddered under the invisible pull of the wind. Waves of air tossed them gently, then fiercely, testing the plane, testing them. The controls vibrated under their hands. Instruments flickered in the dim light. Every decision, every adjustment mattered. There could be no margin for error. Below, the Pacific seemed infinite, reflecting the clouds like a silver mirror, its surface calm yet capable of swallowing all that dared to cross it. Above, the gray sky pressed down, obscuring orientation, making time feel fluid, the horizon meaningless. Amelia breathed slowly, deliberately. Each breath measured, each heartbeat steady. Fear was acknowledged, but contained. Focus was absolute. Every mile required trust in the plane, in Fred, in herself. Hours felt like days. Minutes stretched into eternity. Every glance at the instruments, every call to Fred, every adjustment of the controls was a silent negotiation with fate itself. And still, the horizon offered nothing. Only the endless ocean, the gray sky, and the faint hum of engines carrying them forward, toward uncertainty. Fuel gauges dipped. Radio messages grew desperate. "We are flying at 1,000 feet, cannot see land." The Pacific stretched endlessly beneath them, infinite, indifferent. A vast mirror of water reflecting the gray, merciless sky. Clouds glittered like shards of ice. Waves rippled in silver and shadow, repeating the clouds' movements like an endless mirror. Howland Island did not appear. Amelia made a decision no official record would ever capture. She descended. Every foot lower brought them closer to danger, but closer to hope. Every second counted. Every mile could mean survival or the end. The Electra shuddered under its own weight. Winds buffeted the fragile wings, testing their limits. Time slowed. The world outside seemed both immense and merciless. Horizons disappeared. Distance became meaningless. The vast ocean swallowed the plane's shadow. Fred adjusted the charts, fingers trembling slightly. "We should be close," he said, voice steady, calm, but underlined with tension. Amelia scanned the horizon, eyes straining against the glare of the sun and the gray veil of clouds. Nothing. Hours passed like minutes. Each gust of wind became a force to negotiate. Each slight dip of the wing, each vibration of the fuselage carried weight beyond measure. The plane groaned in quiet protest, as if it understood the stakes. The radio sputtered, then fell silent. Static hissed like a warning. Amelia's hands were steady, heart steady, but the isolation pressed against them, heavier than the aircraft itself. Every calculation mattered. Every glance at the instruments, every adjustment of throttle or rudder could decide life or death. The ocean below gave no hints. No mercy, no guidance. Its vastness demanded respect. Its silence was total. The two aviators were utterly alone. No landmarks, no second chances. Just sky. Just sea. Just the fragile wings of the Electra. And the courage of two people bound together by precision, trust, and determination. Time and distance blurred. Fear was acknowledged but contained. Hope hung by a thread, fragile, fleeting but still enough to keep hands on controls, eyes on horizon, minds calculating. And still, the ocean waited. Infinite. Merciless. Untamed. The Electra struck water, but not fully. A coral reef rose beneath them like a hidden spine of the ocean, jagged and unyielding. The plane shuddered violently, scraping against the coral metal, groaning under the impact. For a moment, it seemed as if the aircraft might break apart entirely. Then, it rested, damaged, fragile, but intact. Amelia and Fred were alive, stranded, but alive. Amelia stepped onto the reef, boots slick with salt and algae, each step cautious. The water lapped at her ankles, cold and insistent. She turned slowly, taking in the reality around her. No ships on the horizon, no planes in the sky, no voices carried by wind or wave. Only the endless, merciless ocean, stretching in every direction, indifferent to human life. Fred moved methodically, salvaging what they could from the Electra: water bottles, rations, and the small battered radio. Every ounce counted. Every moment was precious. Each decision carried weight. Each action could make the difference between survival and disaster. Amelia looked back at the plane. The Electra's fuselage was scarred, wings bent but holding. It was a reminder of how fragile hope could be, and how resilient courage must become. The sun rose higher, painting the reef in harsh light, revealing the vast isolation surrounding them. Waves crashed against coral spires, sending sprays of salt into the air. The wind carried no promise of rescue, only the relentless rhythm of the Pacific. They set up what little shelter they could, rationed carefully, and listened to the static from the radio, hoping, praying, calculating. Every passing hour was measured. Every wave, every gust of wind was another challenge to navigate. Stranded on a reef in the middle of the ocean, days stretched endlessly. The sun rose and fell over the endless ocean, waves glinting like silver in the harsh light, then fading to gray at night. Time became a fluid, unmeasured thing, hours and days blending together, marked only by the slow passage of the tide. Amelia transmitted messages daily. Her voice was calm, precise, professional, but beneath the control, hope lingered like a fragile ember. Each broadcast carried a mixture of information and plea, a lifeline cast into the vast, indifferent Pacific. Sometimes faint responses echoed back through the static. Or perhaps it was only hope playing tricks on tired ears. Fred grew weaker. Exposure, exhaustion, and injury wore him down. His hands trembled as he handled rationed water, his movements slower, more deliberate. Amelia watched carefully, ready to intervene, to steady him, to shoulder what she could. She stayed strong not because she felt strong, but because someone had to. Every decision, every ration, every action counted. Weakness could not be allowed. Not here, not in the face of this endless expanse. At night, she gazed at the stars Fred once navigated by, now distant, cold, unreachable. She traced the constellations with her eyes, imagining lines between the points, calculating distances that would no longer save them. "I used to think the sky was freedom," she whispered into the still night. "Now it's memory." The wind carried only the sound of waves lapping against the reef, a rhythm both soothing and relentless. Isolation pressed in like a tide, heavy and unyielding, yet she refused despair. Every hour brought new challenges, conserving water, checking rations, adjusting the small makeshift shelter. Each task was repeated, ritualistic, a way to assert control over a world that offered none. She spoke softly to Fred, words meant to comfort, to remind them both that survival was possible. Each day was a battle of endurance. Each night a test of patience. The Pacific stretched infinitely around them, a mirror of clouds and waves, indifferent and unchanging. And still, she waited, waiting, listening, hoping. Storms arrived without warning. Winds tore across the ocean like a living force, bending waves into walls of water. The Electra shuddered under the assault, metal groaning, rivets straining, instruments flickering with every impact. Rain pelted the cockpit, blurring the view outside into a gray, violent smear. Amelia's hands gripped the controls. Steady, precise. Every gust, every roll of the plane tested her skill, her courage, her resolve. Beside her, Fred struggled to maintain balance, eyes fixed on the instruments, calculations racing even as the storm threatened to drown them in chaos. Amelia sent one final transmission, calm, measured, unmistakably hers. "This is Amelia Earhart," we tried. The words carried over the static like a heartbeat, a final defiance against an ocean that would not bend. Then the radio went silent forever. The world would not hear her voice again. Silence swallowed the frequencies she had mastered. The Electra, the plane that had carried dreams, courage, and ambition across the globe, surrendered to the ocean's relentless expanse. Above, storm clouds raged. Below, the water churned like a living, indifferent creature. And somewhere in that vast, merciless sea, a story of bravery, determination, and human will reach its final unspoken note. The women who had flown beyond limits, Amelia and her courage, were gone. But their defiance, their audacity, their refusal to yield, lingered in the wind, in the waves, in every horizon yet to be crossed. The United States launched the largest search in naval history. Planes roared over the Pacific, their engines cutting through clouds and wind, scanning endless blue for a sign, a glimmer, a clue. Ships combed thousands of miles of open water, leaving trails of hope behind them, searching where hope seemed impossible. Nothing, no wreckage, no bodies, no certainty. The ocean had swallowed the Electra, its passengers, and their story, leaving only questions behind. Officially, Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan were declared lost at sea. Unofficially, the world refused to let go. Newspapers chronicled every lead, every rumor. Families, fans, and fellow aviators waited, hoped, and wondered. The search became legend. Questions multiplied. Speculation endured. Even in absence, she remained present in the minds of millions, in the imagination of a world captivated by courage, defiance, and the sky she had loved more than life itself. Amelia Earhart did not vanish. She became something larger than discovery itself, a symbol, a presence, proof that courage could exist without guarantees. That ambition did not require permission. That failure did not erase bravery. Every time a young girl looks up at an airplane and thinks, "I want to be there," Amelia is present. Every time a dream stretches beyond fear, she is there, silent, unwavering, inspiring. The sky still remembers her. The winds still carry the echo of her wings. And perhaps, somewhere beyond the horizon, she is still flying. Not lost, not broken, but forever free. Amelia Earhart did not disappear into the Pacific. She entered history. She lived in an age that asked women to look down, and she looked up. She did not fly to be remembered. She flew because the horizon asked something of her. Her journey reminds us that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward without guarantees. The world never found her aircraft, but it found something greater. Proof that ambition needs no permission. That progress is carried by those willing to risk everything. And that failure does not erase bravery. Every generation redraws the horizon, and every time someone dares to go farther than expected, to dream beyond fear, Amelia Earhart flies again. Not lost, not silent, but forever part of the sky. The story of Amelia Earhart is more than history. It is a lesson, a legacy, and a call to courage. Every flight she took, every risk she embraced, reminds us that bravery is not given, it is earned. Her spirit soars in every dreamer who dares to reach beyond the horizon. On this channel, History Worlds Secret, we bring history to life, uncovering the secrets and stories that shape the world. Subscribe, watch, and join us in exploring the courage, the mysteries, and the legacy that continue to inspire generations. Because history is alive, and its lessons are waiting for you.